Sarashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om. Be seated, please. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Good. Welcome back. Welcome also to many students who are attending these classes online. We continue. Actually, we're coming to the very end of chapter 23, which we've seen a lot of teachings on jnana, the typical Advaita Vedanta perspective. And I'm smiling because of the way Sri Krishna chooses to conclude this chapter is comparing the yogi who has a good teacher and the yogi who doesn't. And sadly, there are so many spiritual practitioners today that it's sad they don't have proper guidance. And just by evaluating the teachers who are popular today, it kind of looks like the majority of spiritual practitioners are not getting proper guidance, and that's unfortunate. I'm not saying that the modern spiritual teachers aren't helpful. They are helpful, most of them. The ones who want your money, not so helpful. Well, they're helpful to themselves, I suppose, not to you. But the majority of spiritual teachers, they're well-intended, but they themselves may not have been properly taught. So we have this ongoing problem where in modern times, a lot of teachers and students have lost connection with this ancient lineage. And at least in my opinion, it's this ancient lineage that's preserved the wisdom of the rishis. And if we lose the wisdom of the rishis, it's pretty much, what did they say? It's finished. It's over. So with this in mind, Sri Krishna then compares the yogi who has a good teacher with the yogi who has an inferior teacher. And the yogi who has an inferior teacher is taught how to use yoga. In fact, that's exactly what goes on in modern yoga studios today. How to use yoga to feel better. Isn't that what's taught in yoga studios today? How to feel better, how to look better. In some of the yoga studios have a lot of emphasis on the appearance of your body, but mostly how to feel better, how to manage stress. Everyone has a stressful life. And there's nothing wrong in that, except that yoga is meant for so much more. So in the last verse we saw at the end of the prior class, talking about the teachings of the inferior sort and the yogis of the inferior sort. In those yoga studios, what do the young yogis learn? I should say yoginis. Most of the attendees are female. So what do those yoginis learn? They learn yoga dharanaya, kanchit, how to remove some of their problems in life, anxiety, for example, through yogic meditation, asanaihi dharanaya, and also how to use yogasanas as an aid to removing their problems. Also, other problems that don't respond so well to asana and meditation. There's also practice of tapas, austerities, mantra, use of mantras, aushadaihi, use of herbs. All of this is done for the sake of removing these problems, but these are all common worldly problems. And these worldly problems, from a Vedantic standpoint, all of these ordinary problems of life, you have plenty, I have plenty. If you have a body, you have physical problems. If you have a mind, you have mental problems. If you have a family, you have family problems. If you have a job. Anyway, it goes on, right? So all of these problems are considered to be symptoms of an underlying issue. That underlying issue being called a spiritual illness, bhava roga. So bhava roga, the illness of worldly life, is to be afflicted by all these many, many things in life, period. An enlightened person is not afflicted by all these things in life. An enlightened person has a body, but the body is not a source of affliction. An enlightened person has a mind, but the mind doesn't cause affliction. An enlightened person may have a family, maybe a job, why not? But is not afflicted by all of that. So the fundamental problem is bhava roga. So Sri Krishna, can we have yeah, should have had this up before. Sri Krishna has mentioned all of these kind of side issues, these other applications of yoga to help deal with the symptoms, the afflictions of life, how to deal with stress, etc. But now he turns to the core issue. Instead of treating the symptoms, why don't we treat the cause, bhavaroga? That's where we pick up the thread. Kanschin mamanudhyanena, kanschin mamanudhyanena, nama sankirtanadibihi, nama sankirtanadibihi, yogeshwaranuvrityava, yogeshwaranuvrityava, hanyara shubhadhan shanaihi, hanyara shubhadhan. Kanschit, other problems. Now, turning to the fundamental problem. My guru liked that expression, the fundamental problem, bhavaroga. He says, how is that fundamental problem dealt with? Mama anudhyayena. Anudhyanena, by anudhyana, by meditating, mama, on me. So Sri Krishna here, as throughout this text, refers to himself as Atma, that inner truth, the inner reality, the truth of who you are. Sri Krishna dwells within you as your essential nature. So by meditating on Sri Krishna's presence within you, how? Nama, by reciting his name, sankirtanadibihi, and through kirtan, through different kinds of chanting exercises, through bhajan, kirtan, devotional singing, through all kinds of devotional practices, one can be aided in the process of discovering Sri Krishna's presence within. And this is so crucial. Notice all of the prior remedies have been focused on dealing with the problems of the body, problems of the mind, problems of the family. So the person who goes to the yoga studio, they want a healthy body, they have anxiety in the mind, they have problems with the family and job, and they're undergoing the practice of yoga for the sake of all those external problems, which we've labeled as symptoms of the underlying problem, bhavaroga. But Sri Krishna here talks about using nama and sankirtana, or nama sankirtana can be also one word, to be engaged in devotional activities which turn your attention away from the physical body, away from the mind, away from the family, away from the job. Turn your attention towards Sri Krishna's presence within you. And through that ongoing practice and with the help of these teachings of Vedanta, eventually you discover Sri Krishna's presence within you as your true nature. Suppose you don't. There are plenty of people doing Nama Sankirtana, the Hare Krishnas and many others. Do you think they're all enlightened? Perhaps some might be, we don't know, but perhaps not. So for those who do Nama Sankirtana but don't get enlightened, maybe they need more help, more assistance, more guidance. Third line, Yogeshwara Anuvritya Va. Or they need the anuvritti, following yoga Ishvara. Ishvara here means guru. Yogeshwara is a guru, a proper teacher of yoga. The Sadguru, the true guru. The guru who is not teaching you how to treat the symptoms, problems of your body, mind, job, family, etc., are symptoms of bhavaroga. The true guru is one who helps you turn your attention from the symptoms to the underlying cause, bhavaroga. And by treating that bhavaroga, that fundamental problem, hanyat, one finally removes ashubhadhan. Ashubhadhan, you can translate it as affliction, which is fine. But be very careful. Does the enlightened, when you get enlightened, do the problems of your body go away? Be real about this. When you get enlightened, the problems of your body don't go away, nor do the problems of your mind, nor do the problems of family and job. The changes, they no longer afflict you. Is it possible to have problems without being afflicted? Sure. You have thousands of little problems that don't afflict you. Well, suppose things changed for you in such a way that not only the little problems didn't afflict you, but the medium-sized problems didn't afflict you, and shanaihi, gradually, eventually, the big problems don't afflict you. This is a process of spiritual growth. This is how it works. But notice that it takes this Yogeshwara, it takes the right orientation. Either on your own or with the help of the Guru, you have to be focused on solving the fundamental problem instead of all the little problems that we find in daily life. Then, Kechidehamimam dhiraha, Kechidehamimam dhiraha, Sukalpam vayasi stiram, Sukalpam vayasi stiram, Vidhaya vividhopayaihi, Vidhaya vividhayo yair, Atayunjanti siddhaye, Atayunjanti siddhaye. Unfortunately, the majority of yogis have not had the advantage of a Sadguru. And yogi means spiritual practitioners, means you're all yogis, you're all spiritual practitioners. And he says, Kechit dhiraha. Dhiraha has many meanings in different contexts. Here, one who is dedicated can mean enlightened person in different contexts. Here, Kechit dhiraha, some dedicated yogis. What about them? Actually, down in the third line, vidhaya, having undergone the practice, having undergone vidhaya, having undergone practice, vividha upayaihi, through various means. Vivida, various. Upaya means various kinds of practices. Through those various practices, what do they get? Going back to the first line, they get imam deham. They get a condition in which imam deham, this body, is sukalpam. Now, sukalpam can usually means healthy, but can also mean beautiful. So this is what goes on in the modern yoga studios. People they want to, the American word, they want to look buff. How's that? And there's nothing wrong with that. But after you look, actually, Sri Krishna is going to make more in the next verse. He's going to say, after you get that buff body, when you're 20 and 30, you're buff. When you're 40 and 50, and when you're 60 and 70, forget it. So he's going to make that observation in the next verse. But you not only become sukalpam, healthy or buff, but also vayasistiram. Your life is extended. There's nothing. Please don't misunderstand me. Nothing wrong. We should have healthy bodies. And if going to a yoga studio is the best way for you to have a healthy body, wonderful. But it's not enough. As you said, you have that wonderful, healthy young body in your 20s and 30s, but as the decades go on, there's only so much we can do. So these yogis, having achieved gaining a healthy, fit body, what do? Atta, then, this is very interesting. Atta, then, yunjanti, they engage in yogic practices, siddhaye, for yogic siddhis. So it's interesting, in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is such a profound text on meditation, there's a whole chapter, whole book, dedicated to the attainment of special powers called siddhis. Siddhis like anima. You know, when somebody disappears, they don't really disappear. They become atomic in size. So small, you can't see them. So the yogi disappears with this power of anima. The yogi flies through the air, not by flapping wings like a bird. The yogi flies through the air through the power of laghima, by becoming so light, a little puff of air will carry that yogi through the sky. So there are the variety of these yogic powers described in Patanjali's sutras themselves, our main text on meditation. Why are those siddhis there? I suppose because they were popular back then. This is not the time for a big lesson on Yoga Sutras, but more than anything else, Patanjali was a compiler of ancient yogic practices that were in vogue at his time, which is about 22 or 2,300 years ago. Just reflect on this. 2,300 years ago, Patanjali compiled ancient practices. This is yoga. This is a tradition. So, among those ancient practices were these practices to gain these siddhis. Did Patanjali ever witness any of these siddhis? There's no evidence of that. Do any modern yogis, have any yogi in modern times exhibited any of these siddhis? I don't think so. But apparently, in very ancient times, they may have existed. So we find all of that put in the Yoga Sutras. Patanjali does so because he's required to, as compiling the standard text on meditation. But now here comes the problem. If you are studying the Yoga Sutras, he says you can do this practice to gain moksha, he calls kaivalyam, or you can do this practice to learn how to fly through the air. Now, if you're studying that text with a guru, you won't have a problem. If you're studying that text independently, you're thinking moksha, flying, yeah. That's what I want. So that happens, right? And Patanjali actually in the text, he kind of says, you can gain all these siddhis, but so what? And in fact, that's the point that Sri Krishna is going to make in this next verse. He says, Nahi tat kushaladrityam, nahi tat kushaladrityam, tarayaso hyapartakaha, tarayaso hyapartakaha, antavatvat sharirasya, antavatvat sharirasya, palasyeva vanaspatehe, palasyeva vanaspatehe. He says, natat kushala adritya. Nahi. Indeed, na, tat na, that is not, adritya, that meaning the attainment of all these siddhis. The attainment of these siddhis, na adritya, is not respected, is not sought after, is not considered seriously by whom? Kushala, those who are skillful. The guru who is supposed to be teaching you the Yoga Sutras and keeping you on track, if you're studying independently. Look at people. I shake my head because it's so common today. People ask, do I really need a guru? So suppose you decide, I don't need a guru. So I'm going to study Patanjali's sutras on my own. And who is guiding you through the interpretation of those sutras? Are you enlightened yet? If you were enlightened, you wouldn't be studying these Yoga Sutras. So would you pick yourself as a guru? How about this? If you want to learn something really difficult and subtle, how about classical music? If you want to learn classical music at a really high level, can you be your own guru? Doesn't that sound off? But then many people insist you can be your own guru, or the guru within. Is that guru within going to teach you how to do the proper gamaka between this note and that note? That inner guru, give me a break. Inner guru. Anyway, that's a very common expression. What's inside of, sorry to be a little sarcastic here, but what's inside of you is not an inner guru. What's inside of you is ignorance. This inner guru stuff is really misleading. Anyway, let's continue here. So, the truly wise ones are not misled by the Patanjali Yoga Sutras into pursuing all those siddhis. Why? Because tat ayasaha, such efforts, he indeed, apartakaha, are useless. Not inferior, useless. In fact, you could take it a step further. Not only useless, but counterproductive. Useless means neither positive nor negative, but they could actually be counterproductive because as long as you're focused on gaining these siddhis, you're not focused on gaining moksha. So it is a huge problem. So anartakaha, I have to share this joke. The uselessness of siddhis. There's an old joke. A man goes to the riverside and he's going to take a ferry across the river. And on the banks of the river is a meditating yogi, and this man watches. This meditating yogi comes out of meditation, stands up, walks to the edge of the river, and walks across the water to the other side. And then the man watches this, he's amazed. And then he gets on the ferry, he crosses the river, and he wants to find out, how did you do that? So he asks the meditating, how did you do that? He says, I've been meditating for 40 years and doing intense tapas, and I gained the siddhi. And the guy said, you meditated 40 years and did intense tapas to be able to cross the river? I just paid the ferry guy a penny. You get the idea? Useless. I like that story. Okay. So, here Sri Krishna concludes, gaining these siddhis, he says, is useless for another reason. Because antavatvat sharirasya, the siddhis you gain for this body which is antavat, which is mortal. So you go on improving this body, but palasya iva vanaspatehe, this body is like a fruit from a tree which grows, ripens, rods. Sorry. but that's just what your body is born. Good. Ripens? Excellent. I think most of us are in the third stage about now, in which bodily function is decaying. Admit it. So therefore, to go on building up the body, there's a really kind of an ugly metaphor. They say it's like decorating what will be a corpse. That's what it is. That's actually more of a Buddhist expression, to decorate a corpse. How about makeup? Actually, that's what they do anyway. You get the point. This body is doomed to die. What is the point of attaining these yogic powers when this body is not going to last that much longer? Then, yogam nishevato nityam, kayaschet kalpatamiyat, yat shraddha dhyana matiman, tat shraddha dhyana matiman, yogamutsrijya matparaha, yogamutsrijya matparaha. Yogam nishevataha nityam. So yoga, this practice. through the practice of yoga, the yoga performed by that yogi. So Sri Krishna is still on that topic. The yogi who is seeking the buff body, the yogi who is seeking mental relaxation, stress management, the yogi who is seeking relief from his or her problems at work or at home, that yogi who is seeking the siddhis, whatever it is, such yogis, nishevataha, through their practice of that yoga, nityam, through their continued practice of that yoga has a result. The prior verse said there are fruits, the fruits of yoga. But then, as we said, the fruits of yoga are born, they ripen, and they rot. And that's what Sri Krishna continues to talk about here. He says, your kayaha, the body, chet, perhaps it becomes kalpatam iyat. It gains strength. It gains strength, and then it rots. That's the fact. So why put so much focus on body, mind? We need a body and mind that are healthy enough. We need a family that's healthy enough. We need a job that is healthy enough. Enough. Sufficient. As you've heard here many times, no such thing as a perfect body, no perfect mind, certainly no perfect family or job. So seeking conventional life is you go on improving things. You go on improving the body, improving the mind, improving the job, improving the family. Again, this sounds very Buddhist. It's all temporary. You're putting lipstick, this is a Buddhist expression, you're putting lipstick on a corpse. Those efforts, continued efforts, fix up the body, fix up the mind, fix up the family, fix up the job, putting lipstick on a corpse. Nothing wrong with that, because we want our body to be as healthy as possible, mind, etc. But when that is your sole purpose of life, as it is for most people, so we have to shake ourselves out of that orientation, which is why the Buddhists have this lovely expression, lipstick on a corpse. Here, Sri Krishna uses different language. He says, tat shraddhadat na matiman. He says, matiman, an intelligent person, na tat shraddhadat, doesn't put their emphasis on all these other shraddha. I mean, here, not faith as much as conviction. The conviction of an enlightened, not wise person, the conviction of an intelligent person with an intelligent guru, a sadguru, a true guru, that intelligent person will not be committed to continually working, I won't say continually, to exclusively fixing up the body, mind, family, and job. That will not be so focused on that even through the practice of yoga. And that intelligent person, this is very strong, yogam utsrajya. That intelligent person gives up yoga. That's literally what it means. Sri Krishna says the intelligent person gives up yogic practices meant for the sake of a buff body, a relaxed mind, and so forth. And siddhis. So an intelligent person, yogam utsrajya, rejects all of those, can we call them tangential applications of yoga? How many people meditate for relaxation? Relaxation is a tangential result of meditation. Nothing wrong with it. It's not the Do you think Patanjali wrote those sutras to help everyone become relaxed? And all these siddhis and very intense practices. The meditation he teaches is a kind of meditation that requires extraordinary focus. This is not a practice for the sake of relaxation. So we can think of relaxation as a tangential a tangential result of meditation. And in the same way, a healthy body and mind is a tangential result of yoga. Tangential means it's not the real purpose of yoga. What is the real purpose of yoga? Sri Krishna says in the last word, it says to be matparaha, to be focused on me, within, instead of focused on the body, the mind, the family, the job, etc. Matparaha, to be focused on me, Sri Krishna's presence in your own heart. And that leads us to the final verse of this chapter. Yogacharyami mam yogi, yogacharyami mam yogi, vicharan madapashrayaha, nantarayarvihanyeta, nantarayarvihanyeta, nispraha swasukhanubhuhu, nispraha swasukhanubhuhu. A yogi, end of the first line, but a yogi who has a good teacher. What about that yogi? In the end of the next line, that yogi who is mat apashrayaha, the yogi whose ashraya. Ashraya, abode, but how about goal? The yogi whose goal is mat, me. Sri Krishna says, my presence within. The yogi who seeks my presence within themselves, that yogi, vicharan, engaged in this process of self-inquiry, atma vichara. Atma vichara means seeking. Atma is Sri Krishna's presence within you. So atma vichara, according to Sri Krishna, is seeking him within you, atma vichara. And vicharan, through doing this practice, through this inquiry, and what kind of inquiry? Yoga charyam imam. Through this yoga charya, through this practice. Not a yogic practice which strengthens your body or mind or improves your family or job, but a yogic practice which turns your attention within to seek your true self, Atma, to seek Krishna within you. And in this way, that person, in the end of the next line, vihanyeta, would become completely free. Na antaraihi vihanyeta. That person would not be afflicted antaraihi by obstacles. Obstacles like, what's wrong with your body today? If you ask me, Swamiji, how are you doing? If I'm going to be very honest, I'll start making a list. And you might do that also, right? How are you doing? Well, there's this problem and that problem and that problem and that problem. Problems of the body, problems of the mind, problems of the family and job. How long would that list be? Yeah. So, having been enlightened, does that list disappear? It's still there. Having become it is like, okay, who cares? Which is why if you ask Swami Tadatmananda, how are you? Fine. Same for you. Somebody says, how are you doing? You're not going to list all of your problems because you can handle them. Any problem you can handle without suffering is not a problem. Hear that? I'm paraphrasing my guru. Any problem that you can manage without suffering, it's not a problem. It's a situation. And Pujya Swamiji used language like, you need to learn how to turn your problems into situations. They're facts. Your car needs repair is a fact. Your body needs repair is a fact. It's the same thing. You don't feel, oh God, when your car needs repair. And in the same way, you need not feel overwhelmed with fear or whatever when you get that diagnosis, when your body's got it. It means it's a situation to be dealt with pragmatically. If this thing, it is a thing, right? If this thing needs chemotherapy, go for it. If this thing needs surgery, fine. Whatever this thing needs to keep going. It's like your car needs a new muffler. Okay. It keeps it going. Your car even needs a new engine. Heart transplant. Whatever it takes, keep the car going and keep the body going. But it's just one situation after another to be dealt with pragmatically, none of these situations rising to the level of being a problem. Think of there being a bar, a line, when all of the problems are down here. They're situations. Suppose none of these problems are able to cross that bar and cause suffering. That's what Sri Krishna is describing here. He is not describing the absence of antaraya, means obstacle, problem. He's not describing the absence of problems. He's describing the absence of he says, na vihanyeta, you won't be afflicted. You have these situations, but they no longer afflict you. This is the nature of the enlightened person, free from affliction, not free from headaches. That's the human condition. Why? That person, that enlightened person, is nispraha, free from attachment, a kind of healthy detachment, the kind of healthy detachment you have with your car. When your car needs repairs, you don't freak out, as they say. When you get that diagnosis from the doctor, you're more likely to freak out. Why? Attachment to this body. Suppose you come to the point where taking care of this body is the same as taking care of your car. It's just what needs to be done. This is a perspective of an enlightened person. And if you think, that's it, this is exactly what Pujya Swamiji taught, turning problems into situations. And he said that an enlightened person has his exact word. He uses the word, an enlightened person has, this needs some explanation too. He used to say, and it sounded confusing, I think, to many people, an enlightened person has no subjectivity. An enlightened person is a perfectly objective person. Now, that's a little abstract and can be misunderstood very easily. What does it mean to be subjective? It means to superimpose your own values on something, your own perspective. That's what a subjectivity means, your personal perspective. Objectivity means the thing is what it is, without superimposing your perspective on it. So when Pujya Swamiji said an enlightened person is perfectly objective, means an enlightened person is objective towards the body. The body is just a thing. The body gets old and worn out, and the body dies. Those are all facts. That's all part of the situation that's inherent in being a human being. If you happen to be a human being, this is how it works. You have a body that gets old and dies. If you want to avoid that, then you shouldn't be a human being. That's the only other choice. So this is what Pujya Swamiji means by being objective. Not by saying, oh, my preference is for my body to be young and healthy. That's subjectivity. Suppose you don't have that. I don't want anything for the body. Body is what it is. It's just a fact. To say, oh, I wish my body were more healthy, more young. I wish the sun were shining today. You can wish anything, but according to nature, the sun is not shining today. According to nature, your body is getting old. These are facts. A perfectly enlightened person doesn't say, oh, I wish it were sunny today. It's just a fact, a cloudy day. In the same way, the aging body is just another fact. It is a situation, this person being, the enlightened person being nisprahaha, totally free from attachment with the physical body. It's just a thing. And this enlightened person is swa sukha anubhuhu, the one who anubhuhu experiences swa sukha. Swa, one's own. Sukha, happiness. Swasukha is a reference to Sri Krishna's presence within. When we say Satchit Ananda, that Ananda is Sri Krishna's presence within. You become utterly content. Please don't confuse this word detachment. Detachment is often misunderstood as a kind of indifference. Of course, that's what it means. Literally, detachment indeed means indifference, but in a Vedantic context, to be indifferent towards your body in a Vedantic context means to be completely content as you are. The way the world is, the way your body is, the way your mind is, the way your job is, the way your family is, the way things are going in Washington, D.C., whatever it is, you are completely content with things as they are. That contentment is the flip side of detachment. Detachment means that your sense of contentment depends. Whatever you're attached to means it has to be just right for you to be content. In order to be content, your body has to be in a certain manner, your mind has to be in a certain manner, family, job, etc., etc. If you're detached towards all these things, your contentment doesn't depend on your body. Your contentment doesn't depend on your mind, on your job, on your family. That's what this swasukha means. This utter and unshakable contentment. Everyone experiences moments of contentment. Think about, a nice way to end our class today. Think about one of the most content moments in your life. Whatever was the situation, whether you're at home, on holiday, something made you just feel, that feeling. Everything is perfect. Nothing needs to be done. Imagine having that as your abiding perspective. Why not? Why not? That is the experience of an enlightened person. Everything is fine as it is. Nothing needs to be done for the sake of your contentment. Many things need to be done to keep your body healthy, mind healthy, etc., but in the meanwhile, nothing afflicts you. And if you're not afflicted, everything is fine. Utter, unshakable contentment. That's the goal of these teachings. And a final observation here, when we describe the goal as unshakable contentment, how can you say Vedanta is a philosophy? Is the goal of philosophy as understood in a Western sense? Even in India, it often has that sense as well. Philosophy, as generally understood, is this highly conceptual, intellectual process. We are not after any kind of philosophical knowledge. We are after that contentment. So what is Vedanta? A series of teachings meant to lead you, just to connect it to our prior discussion. Vedanta is the medicine that cures bhavaroga and leads you to unshakable contentment. So with this, Sri Krishna brings this chapter to an end. By the way, there's only one more chapter. This is chapter 23. Chapter 24 is the last chapter. Now, remember, we've skipped maybe about a third of the chapters, maybe a few more than that. We're not seeing the entire text. And remember, we took that decision because the chapters we've skipped are not of interest to a student of Vedanta. They are outside. The Bhagavata Purana is not really a Vedantic text. Turns out that most of this Uddhava Gita is highly Vedantic. So we've excerpted those portions. We're leaving out maybe about a third of it. This last chapter, though, is absolutely beautiful and profound. Interesting in the order. The penultimate chapter, which we've just finished, is mostly focused on jnana. What do you think the final chapter is focused on? Bhakti. This is Bhagavata Purana. So definitely we come back to bhakti in that final chapter. And we'll see that when we meet next week. We'll start that study. Announcements. Tomorrow we have our Vedanta class at 10 a.m., followed by Satsanga, question answer at 11. Come and join us. And then just to remind you, this coming Wednesday, we have our advanced meditation session, and it meets Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. So come join us for that. We'll conclude with our prayers. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Avamahe Kaving Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatanashrinvan Uttibasira Saranam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha Ishvaro Gururhatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Vadvyapta dehaya dakshina murtaye namaha vasudeva sutam devam kamsachanuramardanam devaki paramhanandam krishnam vande jagadguru. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinaha sarve santu niramayaha sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.